Well, welcome back to Super Tuesday Recap. Your main host, Kriss and Dpalm are here. I'm also being joined by Justin from 3/5 Podcast, and eventually he'll be getting right back in here, Jeff from the Nonstop Culture Podcast as well. Will be joining us. We're here to finally talk about Secret Empire, the new event from Marvel. And I think the main book is on issue 2 right now. And this is the series that revolves around Hydra, Steve Rogers, Captain America. We're going to kind of go into a little bit of the lead up to this to get people caught up because there's been a lot of hot takes. Justin was just talking about this before we started recording. There's been a lot of hot takes on why Marvel is flirting with Nazis, and it's just they're supporting Nazism and fascism, and they're making Steve Rogers a Nazi. It's just so wrong. Yeah, there's been a lot of that kind of talk, and most of it's just terrible. I'll start with this. What do you guys think? What was your hottest take you've heard so far on Steve Rogers, Captain America, guys, being Hydra?
All right, so the hottest take that I heard about Steve Rogers being Hydra, someone actually wrote the article saying Marvel has betrayed the American sacrifice in World War II by making Captain America Hydra. Like that was it. They legitimately wrote an article saying because Captain America is now Hydra, you have demeaned the sacrifice of the soldiers in World War II. That was actually a thing somebody wrote.
That is a pretty flaming hot take right there. Hey, Dpalm, how about you?
I've seen a lot of them running the gamut. I've seen turning the white guy into the bad guy when all the bad guys are also white guys. I just noticed that. I think the one that left me the warmest was that it was a slap in the face to his Jewish creators to make him a Nazi. That one really, it was one of the ones I didn't see it coming, to be honest. And when it arrived, I was like, oh, word? We're here now? Word? Okay.
So that one is a weird one to me because when that came out when Steve Rogers Captain America issue 1 came out, and a lot of the people I saw making that argument were people that I knew weren't Jewish. Right? So I felt like a lot of people were latching onto that argument so they could somehow legitimize them wanting to hate this story.
Yep.
Yeah. Jeff, are you in? And we cannot hear you again, Jeff, if you are saying something. So, I don't know what's going on. We literally just had him on for the flash review. I don't know what happened. For me, wasn't really like a singular hot take, but it was one that was sent to me and Rod, where somebody had dug up some old stuff from 2005 on Nick Spencer, the writer, and basically try to prove that he was some right-wing nut job and that literally what they're trying to say is basically Nick Spencer writing Steve Rogers this way was basically him being undercover like Steve Rogers undercover, and he's really a secret racist and hater. So yeah, it's pretty.
See, that one, what makes that one hilarious? That only works if you don't read Sam Wilson Captain America, and that's where a lot of these people start telling themselves.
Yeah.
So. Or even read the Steve book.
Right.
Like, in no way is Steve framed as the good guy.
In no time is Steve.
In no way is, at no point is even like, you know what, I can see where it's coming from. There's nothing.
Yeah. Jeff, we're getting you, but we're getting echo.
Can you guys hear me?
We can hear you, but I'm getting the echo because I think you have the I'm hearing myself through your speakers.
All right. I'm on mute until I can get back in properly.
Cool. Yeah, I don't know what happened. That was weird. So hold on. Let me this other. Yeah. So yeah, the takes have been weird. So let's go back and get people where because you could jump in right at Secret Empire, but I think you miss a lot of context that has been taking a lot of time to set up on this one.
If you jump in right at Secret Empire 0, you are honestly cheating yourself.
Yeah, I would say I would say you should go back to, I mean, you could probably go further back than this. 'Cause I think there's bits and pieces here and there. I would say, all new Captain America, the first Steve Rogers run. I mean, the first Sam Wilson run. I want to say I can't remember what issue it is. Like it's 4 or 5 is the one that has him fighting Red Skull's daughter Sin on the cover. And this is literally where the suggestion is made that Red Skull's used the Cosmic Cube to do this before. It's suggested that he did that. And we talked about this before. That's why we thought it was so interesting. She suggested her father use the Cosmic Cube to turn Sam Wilson into the perfect companion for Captain America. Let's see what we have here. It's like a fight that coincidentally Captain America joined, leading him to fight alongside you. Father uses the Cosmic Cube to give you powers over birds, convolution, happenstance, and yet you become exactly what Fire desired. A steady companion to Captain America, a spy. What you think is your life is a concoction. A tale of nobility Steve Rogers couldn't resist. You, Sam Wilson, are a liar, a thug, and a gangster. In reality, you failed the memories of your parents, and you abandoned your siblings. It wasn't charity that stranded you on the Isle of Exiles. You were simply expanding your drug trafficking. But it is true, Sam Wilson, that that might be quite disconcerting to you, given your pride in overcoming such hardships. But you only became a hero through my father's machinations. Through the use of the Cosmic Cube, he rewrote your history, turning you into a golden hero with the sight of all birds, a strong-hearted man with an unbreakable will and a moral compass, always pointing due north towards the American dream. That was, I think it was, who wrote that? Was it Remender?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Rick Remender wrote that. And again, it's one of those things that's kind of left up in the air. It's like, was she just saying that to get under Sam's skin? Did something happen?
The other thing is, it's not left up in the air. Nick Spencer directly said, hey, anyone who's mad at the storyline, get mad at Rick Remender. This was always the plan.
Yeah. So they tested it then. And again, you know what? I remember when people talked about this, they loved it. They said, oh, that's great. That's interesting. Because Sam overcomes it and Sam goes, doesn't matter what happened. I know what I am. I believe in myself. And that's how the story goes throughout the rest of All News Captain America. All right. All New Captain America did last for what, like 6, 7 issues? I think that's the first run of Sam Wilson's Captain America.
All new, all different.
Yeah, because it goes right into what goes into Secret War,
Yeah.
and then you leave it into Captain America Sam Wilson, which is the book that's currently going right now, and that's where Nick Spencer comes in the picture, and he's writing Captain America Sam Wilson, and this is where you get at this point Steve Rogers, still old Steve Rogers. We won't go into why he's old and why he didn't have his power, but that's why he handed the shield over to Sam in the first place. Steve is basically Steve's not director of Shield, but he kind of works for Shield at that point, right? Or did he retired? I can't really remember what Steve is at that point.
At that point, he's a high-ranking Shield officer. He's not a director or commander. He's just one of one of the field, kind of like what Phil Coulson is in the show before.
He's got his own helicarrier.
Right.
Like that's where he is. He has his own helicarrier. He's an old man because the Super Soldier Syndrome was taken out of him, and that's where we start.
Yeah.
But you know that he's the type of person where if Cap tells you something in Maria Hill, you're kind of looking at Hill like, that's Captain America. I don't know if I'm gonna listen.
Right. That. So, and good to have you back, Jeff. All right. So I guess where you really start getting where we're at now, and it was something that's it's something that happened so subtly you didn't know when you're reading this main story, and it seemed like something so small. And something that Marvel's been doing really well, I think, in some of these events that people swear they hate. They've been seeding larger issues in these events that if at the time you read it, you might not know what's going on, but then you come back and you're like, oh shit, that's what they did there. And that was Assault on Pleasant Hill. So in Assault on Pleasant Hill, Maria Hill, in her infinite wisdom, decides to take. They're experimenting on the Cosmic Cube, and the Cosmic Cube becomes Kubrick, the living embodiment of the Cosmic Cube, and is turned into a little girl. And so the Cosmic Cube becomes a sentient being and a child And you can only imagine how crazy and terrible that's going to end up being. Maria Hill decides she's going to use this cube, cosmic cube, to create this little Pleasant Hill community where she's basically changing the reality of villains. And so it's basically it's a prison camp, but they don't think it's a prison camp. They think it's a work environment. So I can't remember some of the more funny villains that become like they're like a barber or somebody's a janitor or something like that, and it's really like some really terrible person. Like what was Zemo? Anybody remember? I can't remember what Zemo was.
Zemo was the random guy in the beginning. I think they tried to make him like just as odd jobs all around. Because like the way they frame Pleasant Hill is they make you think it's Bucky the whole time, but then the switch happens. You're like, oh shit, it's Zemo.
Right.
I do think the funniest one and a complete oversight really on everyone's part. They made Fixer a mechanic. Like of all the people to have work around machinery, I don't care if you rewrite his reality or not, having Fixer around tools and machines is probably not the best idea.
So
well, that showed Hill's humor.
That was part of the. Well, that's part of the thing about Pleasant Hill was it could they didn't have access to a full cube, so they could only influence you in ways that you knew you could be influenced. I think at one point when the Avengers get here and completely assault on Pleasant Hill, some of the what they turn into actually makes a lot of sense for who they are.
Yeah. So, as you could imagine, at some point the villains realize that they're being used, and this isn't really this is not their reality, and so they fight back. And it's during one of these moments there's a priest that comes in, and he's around old Steve Rogers, who was coming there, and I love that scene where Maria Hill's hurt, and Steve is trying to take Maria Hill to get medical help and see the doctor, and somehow Zemo lets them go. Zemo lets the preacher and Steve Rogers go, and he can't remember why. It's like a scene where he's like, and somebody goes, like, why let him go? It's like, I don't know why I let him go. And there's another point where they're confronted by villains, Steve Rogers and this preacher, and the preacher says, I'll take him, I'll take care of it, and somehow he's able to stop these villains. He's just a preacher. You later find out that it's Red Skull. And at this point, you also got to remember Red Skull. I know this sounds kind of crazy, but they handle it. Red Skull has, in his brain, he has Charles Xavier's mind and his telepathy powers. And so there's a scene in Pleasant Hill, and again, this is not an overall theme of Pleasant Hill here. It's a small thing here, and let me see if I can pull out where they say it at. Because he's walking back to the chopper, and he says something to so there's like Zemo's talking to the rest of the bad guys. He goes, anytime that's Steve Rogers, no, I thought you had him. Great. Why did you even let them go in the first place, Zemo? You know, I can't remember. There was somebody with him. And you see Red Skull coming back. Say, did you get what you wanted, Father? No. Not all I wanted, Sin, but I set the foundation. And that's all you get. Like, and from there on, the Pleasant Hill storyline goes along. I think Kubrick at this point is taken away, right? Somebody takes her. Right? I can't remember.
Yes.
I can't remember how. Also throughout this part, Kubrick helps Steve get his youth back and get his strength back. And there's another scene in there I want to read on that one because it's very, very important. She basically says, is at that point you kind of see what she says to him. Let me see if I can find it. I don't have it. But it's like, it's basically her telling, I can't remember if it's her saying or if it's Steve saying in his head, there are people you love and who loved you in return through the good times and the bad. I was always said that I was fighting for my country, Steve. I always said I was fighting for my country, for my beliefs, but more than that, I see now I was fighting for them, the ones who inspired me, the ones who challenged me, the ones who comfort me. I think about all we went through together, and now seeing them one last time, I know I can die proud. I can die happy. I can know peace. So in that panel, you see in the background, Steve is thinking about the people he's had. Thinking about his mother. He's thinking about Bucky. He's got the Avengers, Sam, Sharon, Carter. Like all these people, he's thinking about them. That becomes in play when you start reading some of what happens in Steve Rogers' Captain America. So at the time, you don't know that in giving him his strength back, Kubrick has also changed his reality into making him believe that his reality was Hydra was the good guys. But you don't get any of that in this. You just go about reading your at this point you still have, Sam Wilson Captain America and you have Steve Rogers Captain America. Yeah. So what do you guys think about up to this point?
So, okay, as I'm reading it, I'm like, okay, cool. It's a nice way to do Captain America's 75th anniversary. You give him his strength back. Steve Rogers, rah, rah, rah. Captain America Civil War, the movie is coming out. Okay, I get what they're doing. You can tell some interesting stories. I really wanted to see how he and Steve are going to play off of each other, right? This is before we got the reveal. The story itself, I thought it was a really dope story that sort of showed the hubris, like Dpalm and Jeff alluded to earlier, the hubris of Maria Hill. She actually thought she could pull this off. She actually thought she could control a sentient cosmic cube, right? And then like even going back further in Sam Wilson Captain America, this is why Sam and Steve aren't friends anymore, because Rick Jones had figured out what they were doing with the cosmic cube and said, "Yo, this is stupid." And Shield was like, "Yeah, we can't have you talking about this." And Sam was like, "No, the people have a right to know." And there's a really great moment. And again, this is why anyone that says, "Oh, Nick Spencer, he's just using Secret Empire to as cover for his fascist beliefs, he's giving cover to fascism." There's a great moment between Steve and Sam in issue 2 of Captain America, where Sam is giving this internal monologue. We've been miles apart because Steve Rogers in his heart believes that when the chips are down, when its values are at stake, the country will do what's right. And me, in my heart, I can only hope it will. Right? That was the basis of their conflict, and then we see it come to a head in Pleasant Hill. So I thought that was really dope storytelling from Spencer from like all the way back at the beginning of this run.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Anybody else?
Well, for me, when I read the end of Pleasant Hill, just having the Cosmic Cube back and Steve getting his powers back, you kind of figured somehow, some way he was going to get his powers back. And when they did it with the Cosmic Cube, so that's pretty convenient. A cool way to tie it in. Same weapon they used to cloak and mask and deceive the villains they used to bring back Steve Rogers. And I thought that was cool. But I was, and tying in the Red Skull as well to have him be the big bad, the original big bad that Captain America had. I said, okay, all that's cool, but I still didn't know what they were going towards. It was ominous enough that Red Skull had something planned, but usually with these comics, they'll have the epilogue or whatever, and they'll foreshadow, and you just won't see it coming until it hits you. And that's exactly what they did. And not only did they do that in Pleasant Hill, they did it with a bunch of the other books that center around how we got here now. Even something as innocuous as Uncanny Avengers, where their whole plan was to go after the Red Skull. You figure out why later on. Mm-hmm. You just think that they just want to get him off the board because he's the Red Skull, but then when you figure out the real motive, it's just that it's the Weebay gift. Once you read all these separate books that tie into where we are with Secret Empire, Thunderbolts, Uncanny Avengers, Sam Wilson, which one of the most fucked up aspects, and Steve Rogers, Captain America, all these books that tie into how Steve's plan worked out. That's when it really hit me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, you just don't.
Oh, when we talk about Steve Rogers, Captain America, like we can talk about how evil Steve Rogers, like, my God, the levels of villainy of this man.
Yeah, I mean, let's go into that now. You don't get the review. Go ahead, Dpalm. You say something?
You're good. You're good.
Okay. You don't get the that. So throughout all this stuff, so you got the Pleasant Hill stuff, and you still don't know at that point. Reality has been rewritten. Nobody really knows. You don't really find anything out until later on in that first issue, the end of that first issue, and that's the issue that everybody that started all the controversy. The first issue of Captain America: Steve Rogers, where you find the end him saying "Hail Hydra."
And because the internet's the worst place in the world, that panel, that news had dropped before. I think right after Pleasant Hill ended. Yeah. It was somewhere around the same time, to the point where when I read Pleasant Hill, I was cognizant of the twist. And I was like, that's what they did. That's really smart. And I moved on about my day. Because for me, it's something that I guess, and I don't want to ascribe it to like social media or anything, because it's happened prior to this. I think people are louder and have more voices. But people, and I bitch about this all the time about different art forms, people want their story the way they want it. And because everyone has a voice now, it's human nature. It's something that's evolutionarily occurred, that, like, let's say you go see a movie and you don't like the way the movie ended, you won't sleep well until your mind can think of a better ending, until you can reconcile it. You need to close that loop in your own head. And that's kind of evolved in this narcissistic, if they're not telling a story I want them to tell, it's the wrong story. And then that's evolved to, let's find reasons why it's the wrong story, and let's get an outrage mob. It's the wrong story because X, Y, or Z. No, not at any point saying, hey, this is kind of art, and it's our job to sit back and kind of judge it for what it is, but not wish it was something else.
Right. And it was so crazy about that issue of Cap's first issue of Steve Rogers. Everybody got so mad about that. Literally, the next issue 2, starts with explaining how we got here. Nick Spencer goes in and explains the stuff and fills in the gaps that you never saw. So you know that, hey, Maria Hill and them got the fragments of the broken cosmic cube, pulled them all together, and became Kubrick, this living embodiment, this little girl. What you don't realize is at one point she goes back when she escapes. Because you learned about that the cube escapes at one point. Kubrick escapes from Maria Hill, but they never tell you where she went. She went to the Red Skull, and they have it here. And she talks about how she went to the Red Skull because she's a little girl, but she's a cosmic cube, and she remembers the Red Skull being nice to her. And so what happened is you have this little monologue in issue 2 of Steve Rogers where he says, "My treasure has been returned to me, and I intend to put it to good use. I would destroy S.H.I.E.L.D. from within, let their eagerness to exploit my cube be their downfall, until a miscreant hacker uncovered their lies and exposed them to the world. It may have delayed my plan, but it was not without reward. I watched as the director was humbled, and you were torn apart from your closest allies." Talking about Steve and Sam, and the split that happened, which is what we talked about with when Steve finds out about the Cosmic Cube stuff, he kind of splits with Steve. While you were distracted by your petty disagreements and the hunt for the man who had made you look so foolish, I set about earning the trust of the cube you called Kubrick. I could not yet control her or force her to submit to my demands, but she could be guided. It literally shows him reading this little girl, which is the Cosmic Cube, a story about how great Hydra is. So he has him reading this book. So it was that Hydra became the greatest terrorist organization the world has ever known, with the Red Skull as its rightful leader, and they all live happily ever after. And he says, perhaps tomorrow we'll read it again, but you should discuss what your new friends of S.H.I.E.L.D. are doing. They're dumb. Everybody's sad because the Whisper Man told all their secrets. Now they don't have anything for me to do. They're all in big trouble. And it talks about how he's trying to control different people, and he shows she shows that she can kind of change the reality and change how people think. And this is where Red Skull gets the idea to do this. The memories, and I think she changed. Who she changed? She changed.
It was Selvig, right?
Selvig, yeah. She changed Selvig into being to believing that he's always been Hydra, and that he's always had these real. And he says to Red Skull's like, his memories are real. All of his life he couldn't possibly have lived a life within Hydra, the Hydra of her stories. And at that moment, I knew what I would do, how they would all fall, how you would fall. Pleasant Hill, a prison disguised as a small town where the realities of so-called criminals would be rewritten to make them complicit drones. And an idea was so perverse and depraved they could hardly say yes quickly enough. And again, Selvig came up with the idea, and this is all again Red Skull's plan. When Zemo and his henchmen arrived, they were the perfect tools with which to begin an insurrection. Once you and the director arrived, I knew Helmet could not resist and the opportunity to strike. I watched with great amusement as he toppled your authority with violent glee. As the image ran wild and destroyed all that had been so carefully built, I smiled as Zemo waved his sword with righteous fury, always a vindictive little man. And then I put a plan into motion. And that's when he happened. They go through and they explain everything that happened. So with all these people being mad at the stuff, literally issue 2 of Steve Rogers explains exactly what they did. And it's a very easy explanation to get, and it makes sense. What you then get with the rest of Steve Rogers, and then when you run it parallel with Sam Wilson, is you get Steve, while he's Hydra, you find out the Cubic did her job a little bit too well. And Steve's idea of what Hydra is much different than what Red Skull's idea of Hydra is.
Right, and Nick Spencer starts to tell the story in Steve Rogers' Captain America about the real Hydra and how they were usurped by the Red Skull's Nazi wing.
Mm-hmm.
And Elsa starts to lament, we've been taken over by the Nazis. And then, it's like, okay, it's cool, we'll wait for our time to strike, whatever. And we see a plan in Steve's mind, a plan that's been forming since the 1940s to take down Schmidt.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that's what's
perfect, because even though you didn't hurt him and beat Hydra, he still hates Schmidt.
Right.
Nothing was going to change that.
Well, what works for this is, again, what I said the Red Skull did his job almost too well is he didn't make himself really, he kind of did make them supreme leader, but he really was talking about Hydra being the heroes. And so throughout Steve Rogers' Captain America, and even when we get into Secret Empire, Steve thinks he's the hero. He thinks he's doing the right thing. He thinks he's putting things in the right place because that's what he believes Hydra's always been about. Hydra's wasn't Nazis. They were better than Nazis. They were at one point in the story. You read they're going through the flashbacks and this life he believes he's lived, and it's literally at one point there was a disagreement between the heads of Hydra on whether they should even align with Germany and the Nazis, because they were like, well, they're a means to an end, and so they begrudgingly did it to get to where they need to get to, and that's how they draw that line. It doesn't mean, though, that Steve is a good guy. I think the brilliance of Nick Spencer's writing, though, and the way he writes it, is that you're reading this and you're still like, oh, Steve's still a bad guy. He just, like a lot of people, doesn't think he's bad. He doesn't think he's wrong.
I think that's also brilliant because it plays on the reader, right? The reader wants so badly to believe in a Steve Rogers. They want so badly to believe in a Captain America.
Mm-hmm.
So when they see Captain America talking about these things, there are some readers that are going to say, well, damn, maybe he has a point. Maybe the Marvel world has become so chaotic. This is the only way to solidify it. You have some readers saying, but that's Captain America. How could he do this? It works so well because they took a character that a lot of people care about in and out of comics, thanks to what Marvel's been able to do with the movies. They took the character that the zeitgeist cares about, and they flipped it, and they made you really consider what it means to be Captain America.
Right.
The Dpalm talks about this all the time. One of the great stories you can tell with the superhero is you take away what makes that hero important, or you take away what makes that hero themselves, and then you show why that hero matters. And I feel like that's what Secret Empire is doing.
Yeah, and
It's so crazy because the people who are like, oh, you turned Steve Rogers Nazi, I'm like, no, you're getting the greatest Steve Rogers story ever because they're telling you why Steve matters. For what it's worth, before, like, call it 2002, before Remainder got in the book, let's just be real, Steve Rogers, Captain America, the main book, was an also ran. It didn't really matter. They let Rob Liefeld draw it, for God's sakes. Like, all the great Steve stories are literally the 70s, like parts of the 80s, and then the last 15 years. There's a lot of period in there where you're like, these are good Steve stories, not great Steve stories, but things like, and each time they've done it, because he's such a perfect archetype, because he's such a perfect character, because the people who say, oh, what do you mean about that? Chris Evans plays Captain America perfectly. He's impossible to hate. So it's really hard to make those stories super compelling. But when they do it, they do the things like they say, I have rejected the United States. I'm no longer the Captain America. I'm the captain. Or I'm Nomad, the man without a country. Like, they have done this before. They've just never done it to where Steve wasn't doing it on principle. He was doing it because he legitimately had been convinced that evil was right.
Right.
What's even crazier to me about the writing and seeing him justify these evil acts is I don't even think it's actually a different Captain America per se. I think it's the same Captain America. He's just justifying his actions because he's always been an ideologue, right? He believes in nobility. He believes in trusting in your people. He believes in family. He believes that whatever he represents is at its core what's good, and you do whatever it is no matter what. And he was like that, and that's also a bit problematic when you take a country like America, where you all its warts and all, but you try to put the ideals above that. You put the ideals above that, and you don't recognize reality sometimes, and that nuance that comes with it. He's trying to do the same thing as the supreme leader of Hydra. And you're reading these books, especially Steve Rogers, you're just looking at him the whole time like, yo, you're supposed to represent something different than what you're saying right now, but the representation part to me is still constant. It's just he's on a different side and can still compel you. He could actually be he to me is the perfect fascist to carry this story.
Yeah, I mean, like at one point, you know, when he finally comes out the closet of what he's doing, you know, even when Carol sends out that message to all the other worlds saying you need to come and help us because you're next. Like this, he's the worst guy you could have to do this because you now have all the planning and all the patience of Steve Rogers, Captain America, but now for the bad guys. Like it is, you know, you really get it. I think it's issue 14 of Sam Wilson. You start seeing how Steve is playing to undermine Sam. And it's that issue where Sam misses the shield when he tries to stop one of the guys, I think Flag Smash or whatever, some noni, from killing a guy that Steve has actually hired to do some dirt for him anyway. And basically, in the issue, you have Sylvia asking Steve, it's like, I do have to ask, though, how'd you know Wilson would miss his target? Sam's learned to use that shield pretty well, but I spent a lifetime with it. I know the trajectory of every possible throw down to a millimeter, every bend and turn it takes. It was just a matter of getting him in position. He's saying that about Sam throwing the shield, but that's how Steve has played the entire Marvel Universe on this right now.
And that's the scariest part about it. It's what if your greatest tactician turned his powers against you? It's why, you know what it is? It's Tower of Babel. Yeah. It's when Batman's plans got stolen and used against the Justice League. Yeah. You realize that he's got all these plans against you. Except that this time you made Batman, or in this case Captain America, a willing participant.
Mm-hmm.
There's a great.
It's awesome.
There's a great line in Secret Empire Zero that captures this. He had always been a master strategist, but freed from compassion and mercy, this was his masterpiece. And that's what this is. This is a Captain America without compassion, without mercy, and God help you all. It's also really dope how you see Steve continue to undermine Sam.
Yeah, so I'm gonna finish reading the panel because it goes into what he was trying to do here. He's like, well played then, I suppose, but I still don't understand. You had him at your mercy. Why not just kill him when you had the chance? Killing him's the last thing I want to do, Eric. Not only is it unnecessary, it would interfere with our plans. Right now, the public is turning on Sam. But if some tragedy was to befell him, trust me, he'd become a martyr overnight. And martyrs can be more dangerous than the living. When I was restored, I let Sam keep the shield because I knew taking it back would seem opportunistic, selfish. But also because I saw an opening, he doesn't need my hope courting controversy and getting marred in the corrupt politics around him. So let those forces tear him apart. Let them expose themselves for what they are and show the lies all this freedom is built. All the lies all this freedom is built on. Once they do that, he'll hand the shield back to me of his own free will. They'll break apart. They'll break Captain America, and the country will break with him.
Yo, listen, man. You can say whatever you want about Nick Spencer. He's telling these allegories real well when it comes to, like, listen. It's the ally, the person that you thought was an ally. You can look at it, especially through Steve. Yo, all of this shit that he's been going through with this Take Back the Shield movement, Not My Captain America, AmeriCorps, getting into the hood. Yo, dude, if you've been black for 5 minutes on this world, how can you not see the parallels?
Right.
How can you not see the parallels of what he do? Yo, the fact when it was revealed that he funded that whole AmeriCorps shit to go in the hood, yo, I threw it up. I was like, yo, you might be the GOAT villain. If there was a villain awards of 2017, it might have to go to. It'd be like, yo, the MVP race is over.
Yeah.
The MVP race is over right there. And this is your man.
Not just having the AmeriCops go into the hood, because he knew his whole plan was to break Sam. He knew it would happen there. He had the Bill O'Reilly allegory on his side. He had senators in his pocket. He got U.S. agent to go after Sam because I can't do it myself because it'll look bad.
Mm-hmm.
But you're a true patriot. You understand what needs to be done. You understand the weight of that shield. Sam's just in over his head. Why don't you just take it back from him?
Yeah. And the great thing about it is
all these little needling things Steve does to undermine and break Sam, like, it's brilliant.
Yeah, to the point of when right before Secret Empire starts in Sam Wilson's book, he stops. He gives up the shield. But you got to think about it because Sam is Captain America. Sam giving up the shield is literally like Steve said, it breaks America. It's one of the last part, and right after that is when Steve's plans go into play, and everything just falls into place after that. You know, so yeah, it's just crazy. So, yeah. All right, Dpalm, real quick. Let's get into because there's some stuff that happens in Secret War. I'll talk about that with Jeff and Justin when we get in there. I know you got to run soon, so Secret Empire, the first, I guess you can say 3 issues because you had the 0 issue, then the first 2 issues. What are your thoughts on it so far? Dpalm?
I love it.
Okay. Yeah.
I love everything about it. I love that it directly addresses everything. I love the time jump. This is what I thought Age of Ultron would be when they did that miniseries. Mm-hmm. I thought they'd do a time jump where he won, and not just where, and then they would, in whatever, they end up using time travel to get around that. Spoilers if you haven't read it. It's perfect because you see in those ancillary books like the U.S. Avengers, and you see it in Captain Marvel, you watch his plans start to happen. And if you're reading the other books, like Jeff said earlier, it enhances the experience, like Uncanny Avengers. You start to see his plan unfold as those books are dropping. Like, oh no, Berto, don't have a conversation with Steve. He's only going to hurt you. And then all of a sudden, you pick up issue 1. I'm going to skip past the 0 issue right now, but you pick up issue 1, and it's not about him winning. It's about he won.
Right.
It's over. It's a wrap.
It didn't take
long. Because you know why? Because realistically, if Cap put together that plan, it would not fail.
Right. Right.
And then you get through issue 1, and you start to see the Seed of the Resistance. And you do the tail end of issue 1, and they level Las Vegas.
Yeah. They literally
just say, well, now he's unredeemable. You can't save Cap now. And I'm like, you said this for the last year.
Right.
The reason we have Hydra Cap is the same reason, and I'm going to ruffle some feathers here. We have Damian in the Bat books. Because on some level, you're saying to yourself, but wouldn't it be cool if Cap was evil? No, it wouldn't. It would suck ass. Because part of you says, wouldn't it be cool if Batman killed? John Paul Valley showed that. Damian showed that. Batman not killing is what makes him Batman. And whenever they bring back Cap, and I've got 2 or 3 theories on how they do it, it's going to be fucking awesome.
Yeah. I even love how they did the time jump in and they explain. Cause I was like, well, how did the rest of the country? You find out they poisoned. They basically put it in the water. They even poisoned.
They did it the same way Trump did it.
Yeah, they poisoned the water.
Be scared of everything. We will only help.
Yeah, they poisoned.
Yeah. They poison the water, but some of it is they poison the water, but a lot of it is the people wanted this.
Mm-hmm.
On some base level, they wanted to feel safe.
Well, everything they've done up to this point,
Yeah, what happened with Civil War, again, Civil War 2 is all Steve Rogers' fault. And, like, once you realize how he played both sides to get to that conclusion, you're like, holy shit, you really are an evil son of a bitch. But Civil War 2, they had lost faith. Pleasant Hill, they had lost faith. Rick Jones, they had lost faith. So, of course, now that they have the 3 crises, Manhattan being taken over, the Chitauri invasion, and Sokovia being taken over by Hydra, now it's like, well, maybe we gave Steve all this power anyways. Congress gave Steve all that power. Maybe we should just trust him.
Yep.
When has Captain America ever let us down?
And
like, that's the brilliance, because he's the hero. Of course you're going to believe the hero. Even you, the reader, you want to believe in Steve. You can't handle the fact that he's evil because you need Steve to be good.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Dpalm, I know you got to run. So what are some of your? I'm gonna Dpalm get some of his theories, because I know he's got to run soon. Because I know at the end. So at the end of issue 2, you have another Steve Rogers apparently show up. And that was like the holy shit moment at the end of that issue. There's always a holy shit moment at the end of these issues so far. Nick Spencer's doing. Dpalm, what are some of your theories going forward? Did I lose Dpalm? Hey, Dpalm, you there? Oh, I must have lost him. So, never mind. Jeff, were you gonna say something?
No, I was gonna say I just thought it was so crazy that Steve Rogers actually built a wall, an intergalactic wall to cover the whole Earth and keep the super powered Ultimates and all those heavy hitters out of Earth.
But that's the crazy thing. He didn't build the wall. They built the wall themselves.
Right.
He just turned it on. Like, he literally had, like, this is literally as if Donald Trump, said, if Donald Trump kept talking about building the wall, but it was really in the background, it was really Hillary that wanted to build the wall or something like that. Like, that's the villainy that's here. Like, it's just like, the people that wanted to build the wall, he kept telling you shouldn't do it. It's a bad. He kept telling Carol it's a bad idea. You shouldn't do it, and she did it anyway.
Reverse psych, man.
Right. Hey, Dpalm, you back?
Yeah.
All right, I was gonna let you wrap it up. Not wrap this up, but give your some thoughts and any ideas you had going forward. So I know you got to run right now.
Yeah, I really love. I've yet to get into the tie-ins. I really loved issue 2, if only because it showed kind of that the surviving heroes, there would be a season, there'd be decisions on what to make. No one would agree on how to go forward because their North Star on not just morality but strategy has always been Steve Rogers.
Mm-hmm.
They've found a way to sequester the mutants. They've got inhuman internment camps. It's what would happen if Donald Trump was competent.
Right.
It's like, I mean, seriously, he has all the power in the world. He's been given absolute authority by all 3 branches of government. He's just too goddamn stupid to do it. Steve Rogers found a way to make it happen because Steve Rogers is brilliant. And I don't know if you guys have read Steve Rogers 17 came out today. I'm not going to spoil it here, but really gets into the nitty gritty. And it shows what Spencer's doing is he's making an allegory about what's happening right now, obviously. But he's doing it in such a way that there is no gray.
Yeah.
You cannot take the other side. There's an evil side and a good side. And that was his intent. Unlike with Civil War I, where Mark Millar wanted to show both balanced sides but made Iron Man a mustache-twirling villain, this actually was the choice and decision of the writer to make this other side so abhorrent that you have no choice but to root for literal children. And if they called their shot by having Miles murder Steve Rogers on the steps of the Capitol. Do it, be immortal. Because there are 3 outs here. So one, we saw at the end of issue 2, Kobik encountering what probably is the psychic remnants of original Steve.
Mm.
We also have the fact that this did start with a Mender's run, which involved a Steve clone.
Mm-hmm.
There is a way out in that way, in that clone has been out there since, unaddressed since post-Secret War.
Valid.
And the third switch is what Natasha's mission's going to, or Clint's mission's going to be. Find that cube.
Mm-hmm.
Because, spoilers, they will fail killing Captain America.
Yeah.
One does not just kill Captain America.
And
but I'm excited for it. I think that Spencer is balanced and considered everything their story, everything they're telling. I appreciate the fact that Marvel's letting them do this. I appreciate how insidious it's been seeking other books, all the way down to Amazing Spider-Man, which had an amazing series of its own, The Clone Conspiracy, but it culminates with Superior Octopus. And they've just found ways to see it all throughout the universe. And while I think, obviously, it ends with the good guys winning and things getting some sort of reverted back to the toys get put back in the box, as they like to say in comics. The ride to get there is going to be a lot of fun. And all the have they gotten quieter, the Caps and Nazi thing? I think it's gotten quieter because I think at a certain point, us yelling, read the books, has made them, I don't know, read the books, and maybe the first 2 pages of Captain America 2 where they explain the whole damn thing.
yeah. Yeah. So,
all right, gentlemen, I'm going to leave y'all to it.
All right.
See you guys later.
Thanks, Dpalm. So, I wanted to go in a little bit, in the issue 2 of Secret Empire that was really well is you literally get because the way they do the time jumps is great. So at the end of Secret Empire 1, Las Vegas is destroyed, and I believe they also kill Rick Jones, who had he had snuck off some information to the underground. And so the heads of Hydra basically are calling, Rogers' bluff and be like, listen, got to show strength. So he has Elsa order the strike to destroy Vegas. And you have the heroes literally pulling bodies out and trying to save people. And so the underground, which is Natasha and Clint, you have the AI version of Tony Stark, and a bunch of a few other people, and you have a bunch of the kids, and there's a split. Black Widow thinks that they need to go out and things need to happen, they need to kill them. Clint believes that they need to go after the Cosmic Cube, and what ends up happening is some of the kids go with Miles goes after goes to Black Widow, goes to Natasha, and the rest of the young ones go with him because they're like, wherever he goes, we go, and that's what leads us to the idea of what happened in Civil War II, where you saw this vision of Miles killing Steve Rogers, Captain America. It could go down that route.
So here's what I really liked about that moment. One, I normally hate stuff like this, but I do kind of like the fact that it was Riri that said, yo, wherever Spider-Man goes, we go. Because they've been stating in her book that she's actually a really big fan of what Miles is doing. So I thought that was kind of cool. I also love the Hickman shout out, right? What is it? They say, it was the day the two of us stood and 2 paths were laid out. A familiar story, but somehow different this time. One was light, and the other was darkness. And I got shadows of Hickman's Avengers.
Yep.
One man was life, one was death.
Mm-hmm.
So when Miles tracks down Natasha's like, okay, you're here to stop me. And Miles is like, no, we've already seen how this plays out. I kill Cap, so let's just get it over with.
Right.
And I actually think they go through with it. Because while one does not just kill Captain America, as he talked about in Civil War II, the Oath, he's accepted that this is how he dies. Mm-hmm. But he knows that his death is going to be for something. So he's accepted. Like you said, he's willing to martyr himself.
Yeah. Yeah. So even if you don't read Civil War II, which I thought was done really well, people said it's so funny. People said that Civil War II didn't matter. I'm like, there are a lot of things in Civil War II that actually matter in Secret Empire, but Civil War II, the Oath, was just like a little one shot. Gives you the aftermath of what it is, and basically Steve laying out what his plans are next, and it's it is chilling. So
I want you to stop me, Tony. I want you to wake up and stop me.
mm-hmm.
Like, oh my, the whole back 5 pages of the Oath is just chilling because it. We knew Steve was a villain before, but the artwork, the way they framed his face, the monologue itself, you're like, we're doing this. We're going down this road. You're going to succeed, aren't you? You're going to win, aren't you?
Yeah. This Secret Empire is just really, really great. Like, there's only 2 issues. I don't know when the 3rd issue comes out. I guess maybe next week. I'm not sure. But this is
in a few weeks. Yeah.
Yeah, but this is one of the books, and I think they're going to 9 issues. This is one series where I want to go and read the side issues now. Like, I want to go and find. Like, I can't. What is the book with Natasha and them? Is it? I can't remember what the name of their book is.
Secret Empire Uprising.
They're Uprising.
Champions in the Room.
Yeah. I also want to see. What is it? Secret Warriors, which is Daisy Johnson, Miss Marvel, and I think Moon Girl. So I want to read that. Like, there's a lot of these little side books I want to read to see where they go with. I mean, there's a lot they can do with this.
Yeah, because look, you have Daisy Johnson, you have Moon Girl, and you have Miss Marvel. You got Kamala Khan. Like, I'm in, right? It's a really dope story. Like, it seems to be just focused on that small little team Daisy puts together and their adventures in Cap's America. Right?
Yeah.
And
go ahead.
What's up?
No, go ahead.
No, and it's just a really fun ride so far. Like, they show you from the perspective of the Inhumans what's going on. They show you how Hydra was able to set up the internment camps. They show you how people were just so willing to abide by it, how they're just so quick to blame the Inhumans, right? It's a real. I'm enjoying what they're doing with that story.
It sounds like more detail into what they kind of did with the framework episodes in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., you know? Yeah.
That's exactly what it is. It's the framework.
Yeah. Also, just real quick, FYI for folks, Magneto isn't Hydra. He's not.
Look. So, without getting into spoilers from the new Steve Rogers book, Magneto's not Hydra, right? Like, Magneto does have a part to play in Secret Empire, but he's not joining Hydra. And I think it's really brilliant what Spencer did with Steve and Magneto. But everyone got so up in arms about a variant cover that was just the villains of, the villains of Secret Empire, right? Where they just have various villain covers. Magneto is one of the iconic villains of the X-Men. So, yes, he's going to get a variant cover because he's one of the iconic villains. Baron Zemo is going to get a variant cover, right? Doc Ock is going to get a variant cover because he's one of the iconic villains of Marvel. You guys can't just you can't just keep jumping off at everything. You can't just have like that visceral reaction like, oh my God, it's a variant cover. He must be Hydra now. You've made a Holocaust survivor a Nazi.
It's also funny. Yeah. Go ahead, Jeff.
No, I was gonna say it really pisses me off how people look at one frame or one cover and they automatically go crazy as to what the story is going to be, especially for the people who don't read the books and say, well, see, that's that Marvel shit I be talking about, but you don't even read the books, fam. Yeah. You don't read the books. You don't know what's going on. And you look at a variant cover and go nuts. Like, I'm just one of those people who read it first and see what it's about. Like, get the context before you're jumping down people's throat.
Yeah. It's been interesting reading some of this and just seeing, some of the other relationships that Steve has built now through these memories that it expands beyond just him, but like Baron Zemo, like they reveal in these flashbacks that Zemo and Steve are childhood friends through Hydra. Like it turns into such a interesting story that's being weaved here. Can't remember the issue, but it's later on in the Steve Rogers run where he takes out and kills Red Skull.
I want to say it's 15 or 16.
Yeah,
I think it's 2015, yeah.
Yeah,
Sounds
and you again, it's it takes care of all the ideas of they made him a Nazi. No, technically they made him worse than a Nazi, and that's something that we can end on that note there. That in a way that everybody's saying it's bad because they made Steve Rogers a Nazi and blah 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 blah. In a way, no, and they're saying Nazis aren't bad. No, they're saying Nazis are bad, but what Steve Rogers does is worse. Because
you know what it is?
Go ahead.
It's the alt-right. We're not Nazis. We just have these beliefs. Steve Rogers isn't a Nazi. He just believes that order comes through strength. He believes in an oppressive government because that's how you keep the people safe. You have all these security checkpoints. You have to keep the Inhumans interned because they're unsafe. Right? Just like the Japanese Americans were unsafe. And just until we figure out what's going on. It's not a permanent thing. It's just until we can find a more permanent home for them. This is all temporary. Look, we're not Nazis. We just believe that you should be able to take people out of their homes and lock them up. Look, we're not Nazis. We just believe that you should have privatized police force in the hood cracking down on crime because the neighborhoods are just so unsafe. But we're not Nazis. Right. And that, again, that's the brilliance.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like at no point does anything see. Again, the argument between Clint and Natasha in Secret Empire 2 is basically no matter what happens, you first of all you see how far they've gone because so much time has passed. I don't know if they told you how much time has passed, but they've tried. They were like, we went and tried. We thought that maybe he was brainwashed. We thought maybe he was a clone. We thought we lost good people thinking that this wasn't Steve Rogers, and it cost us lives realizing that this is Steve. This is the Steve we thought. And Tasha's like at what point do we say stop and do we just go and we stop trying to play defense and we go to try to take this guy out? And so at no point does anywhere in the story, if you read it, do they make it seem like Steve Rogers is a good guy here. He might think he's good, but bad people rarely think they're bad.
And it's playing off of you, the reader, wanting Steve to be good. You want him to be the hero. You want him to be the symbol that he is in your mind. That's what you want, and that's why you have such a visceral reaction to this book. You want Steve to be the hero. You know what you want? You want a Captain America that stands up to oppression. You want a Captain America that speaks his politics. You want a Captain America that sees injustice in the world and does something about it. You want Sam Wilson.
Right. Right. You want Sam Wilson, but you didn't want him.
And to me, it's funny. This is like wrestling booking 101. This is Hulk Hogan turning Hollywood. Someone that you believed in for all your life, that they do the right thing and they're the good guy, all of a sudden breaking bad and showing you another side that they are. And that's why I always thought it was so obtuse to just say, well, you made Hydra a Nazi. That's why you made Cap a Nazi. That's why XYZ is happening. Where if you # read the books, you would know that it's deeper than that. It's not even that he cut the Nazism out of Hydra and made it a more pure fascist organization,
right,
where they may be the same. They have the same ideals, but he just took the branding away. It's just like Justin said, this is alt Hydra right now. This is and what's interesting is this is the more perfect union for Hydra that Cap had in mind, that Kobik instilled in him just by giving him that, rewriting his history, where he still kept the essence of who he was, but now he wanted to make Hydra great again, as opposed to the U.S. And what you get is, another fascist government, which should show you that a fascist government by any other name is still going to oppress you.
Well, it's that thing that we always say. I get with like it reminds me like I'm a civil libertarian, and those people, it's like we can all just come together around this one thing. It's like I don't hate black people or brown people, but you know what we should stop? We should stop these people. Like all he really did was he took Hydra and he refocused them from being the outright racist, white trash Nazis to now being like, well, the real enemies aren't black and brown people. The real enemies are those Inhumans over there. It's the same shit. The only difference is he's been more inclusive of other bigots. So now you can be a bigot of color and be okay with it because, oh, well, I found bigotry that fits me. It doesn't make me feel bad for my black skin, but you know what? We hate them Inhumans over there. It's the same shit, and none of it's good. And so, and the story of Secret Empire is one on how evil Steve is and how effective he is as a bad guy. But it's also, so many of these books are stories on how the Resistance is fighting back. And also the idea that even, because you get some of these stories, some of these talks, especially in 2, about Steve feeling bad about, what happened in Las Vegas, but at the end of the day, he still ordered it. He still had somebody do it. He still took responsibility. Like, it still happened. Even though you feel sad about it later on, you still believe the end justified the means because it projects strength, So, yeah, it's really well done.
You publicly executed Rick Jones.
Yeah, publicly.
I'm just waiting for Baron Zemo to get his GQ article about is Hydra the new sexy look of Hydra.
Right. Oh man, it's fucking crazy.
Zemo about to show up in a tailor-made 3-piece to match the velvet mask.
Mm-hmm. He's gonna have a Gucci mask and
Yo!
Goodness. All right, fellas. Anything else you guys want to say about this before we wrap it up?
My last thing, I love that the resistance in Marvel right now is the kids.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I love that the resistance is the champions. And if you look at the lineup of the champions and you see who it is, it's like, oh, that's why you're mad. I see you. That's why you're mad. The resistance is kids of color.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's an element of this, too. They don't have the Steve archetype to look up to. Yeah. Thor ain't gonna say, Thor's not walking through that door. Captain Marvel's not walking through that door.
All right.
Yeah. I would add that if you've been hoping for a major crossover story that actually makes sense and it connects everything and the side books supplement the main story in the way that idealistically it was supposed to, read Secret Empire. I think anybody who's a comic fan will enjoy it. Give it a chance. Don't, make up the decision for yourself, because I think a lot of people, especially people who claim to like comics and read comics, are doing themselves a disservice not reading it. I can't speak for these writers and what they do on social media, but I can talk about what they're writing, and Nick Spencer is killing it. Like, you can say what you want on all the books that he's writing, he's killing it, and Secret Empire can be it has a good shot to come close to or perhaps surpass what Secret War did. And that's saying a lot. Yeah. That's saying a whole lot. Yeah. And it has a shot.
I'll also add, if you enjoyed the framework, if you enjoyed Agents of Hydra, that back end of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., you're really going to like Secret Empire.
Yes.
Right? You're really, because I read an article that said Agents of Hydra does what Secret Empire couldn't. And I'm like, they're doing the exact same thing. Like, they're literally doing the exact same thing.
It's literally the same thing. It's just the writing goes into more detail. It's literally the same thing.
Right.
Like, even down to the resistance. Like, at no point did anybody say, "Oh, they made Fitz seem like he's a Nazi, a good guy." It's like, no, Fitz was evil. That was the whole point. We all knew he was evil. It's the same thing. Fitz is basically Captain America right now.
Oh my God, no! Not only is Fitz Captain America, he's not inherently evil. They just changed one thing about his past. They changed his past to make him evil, just like Captain America.
Yeah, Steve. What happened with Steve was he wasn't raised by his mother. He was literally raised by Elsa and Hydra. It made sense, guys. Change one change. They changed, and it not just changing one thing. They changed his upbringing, changed his background, changed who raised him, and you see what happened. You see what it became. I'm just saying, guys, it's the same fucking thing. So, and I'll even say this: I'll defend Nick Spender on Twitter because, like, I've seen people get mad at him on some things on Twitter, but it's the same thing with the comic book stuff. Like, people are looking for stuff to be upset at this point, and I hate saying that because that's usually used to dismiss people's real complaints. But at this point, I'm sorry, there's no real complaints. There just aren't. At this point, people are just being stubborn. And it's ridiculous. Stop being stubborn. Go out there and read this stuff, guys. is good. It's a really, really good story. It's a great story. So, all right, Justin, Jeff, thank you guys very much for joining me on this one, and thanks to Dpalm who had to run out of here. Again, you can find the rest of the stuff for Super Tuesday Recap on iTunes, Stitcher Radio. Search for Super Tuesday Recap. Go to the website, mtrnetwork.net or mtrnetwork.com works as well. Email us at mtrailerreviews@mtrnetwork.net. And, hey, fellas, tell everybody where they can find you guys at. Justin?
You can find me on Twitter at LJ90. You can also check out my podcast, 3/5 Podcast, THREEFIFSPODCAST.com. And we're on Stitcher, iTunes, Google Play as well, or anywhere else you download your podcast, you can find us there.
Yeah, as in you can find me at Jeff J Says, at Jeff J Says on all social media, and you can follow my podcast at Nonstop Culture, entertainment, trending news discussions, and comics and wrestling on the CXW pod.
Cool, folks. Guys, again, thank you guys very much for listening, and talk to you guys later. Peace.